Alternative Dig Talk. Real issues, real talk.
Hey Ugandans, I'm Lieutenant Colonel Dewa Kiki, the Deputy Defense Spokesperson and actually the Deputy Spokesperson for the Uganda People's Defense Forces. I was hosted on Alternative Dig Talk. I encourage all Ugandans that this is the way to go. Always watch, participate, give your views and ask questions on Alternative Dig Talk. Dig Talk, the way to go.
Good morning, all our viewers. My name is Tumuhimbise. We are with Professor George Wilson Kanyeihamba. You know, he offered educating citizens, especially lawyers and judges, about how to challenge a presidential election. We are in his home, but today I want to begin with a few comments about the sequence of events, especially with the attempt to assassinate the Minister of Works, General Katumba Wamala. Prof, say hello to the viewers and let's say a word or two in regards to the sequence of events as they unfolded yesterday.
Good morning, viewers. This morning and yesterday were shocking days because we had the news of the attempted assassination of one of our very nice and leading army generals,
Edward Katumba.
Wamala Katumba, and of course his death, rather the death of his daughter and driver, non-politician. None of them has ever expressed any view about politics. And yet that is the problem of anarchy and governing by violence, because innocent people are usually the greatest number of victims in such a case. The saddest thing is that we have, over the years, lost many Ugandans, many of them innocent citizens. We have also lost our leaders, including generals, police officers. One of the notorious cases is when a number of women in only a small area in Entebbe, of a period of a few months, were murdered one by one. We have no clue. We have never even caught one person to be charged with those crimes. Many rumors spread in the country that those women in Entebbe were killed by somebody known. The assassination of one of the police officers who was a friend of the the president's son, murdered on Entebbe Road, with a woman friend. Clues initially showed that they would soon catch the culprit. Nobody had ever been arrested. I reported a number of cases to the CID and personally to Grace Akelo, the CID boss. She put on police officers. One of those suspected to have attempted to murder people was quite related to me, and I knew the evidence. I gave them the evidence. No arrest has ever been made. So the NRM really, apart from other failings, has failed totally to protect lives and property against the onslaught of criminal elements in our society. Occasionally, some of these suspects are caught by the police. Some of them confess that the police are collaborating with them. One would think that our government and authorities would splash out those named police officers who collaborate with criminals and bring them to the force of the law. But talks go, they interview those suspects who say we are assisted by the police or we are acting as agents of the police. Nothing happens. I at least reported, and there is also not telling the truth. Kayihura calls me my uncle, and I have contacted him many times. He even at one time said he's resting at his farm, and one day he will call me there. When I reported him as a suspect, he was already on suspension, but he used his good offices to invoke the law against those people to be investigated. Nothing has ever happened. And I corresponded with him. I even wrote a letter, my view being a lawyer and a judge. Even the allegations against him have always been based on rumor. No concrete evidence has ever come. Because if there was concrete evidence, he would be tried by the military commission and he would be convicted or acquitted. But why keep him in limbo? He's told at his farm. So, but Uganda, they don't make exceptions. He should have said that apart from retired Justice Kanyeihamba, nobody is interested in my fate, or nobody is interested in remaining my friend. So that the English say half the truth is a lie. So Kayihura, my friend, my nephew, and our relationship goes a long way. When you were a student in London, and when your late uncle, Joseph Mulenga, was my best man at my wedding, and there was equally his at the wedding of his late first wife. You are not being truthful. I know other friends of ours, and yours who visit you regularly. I don't know whether you talk to your friends in the military, but when one time I was arrested by the police under the command of one police officer well known in Kampala, you tried to intervene. They had told lies that Kaihura was behind it. You didn't even know about the incident, and you tried to intervene on my behalf, even though you are already on suspension. And that is what a friendship is all about. When your friend is in need and you help them, that's what it is all about. I didn't share many of your policies, and especially when they were implemented. I decried the fact that you converted the police force into the wing of the ruling party, the NRM. That one I will not forget or forgive you. But at the same time, I cannot forget that you are my friend. And the Bachiga, Banyarwanda, Bahororo, Banyarwanda, have a saying that is, he who loves you, who counsels you to avoid doing bad. So I have always even said so in relation to my relations with Museveni and my service to this country. So sad, I want to end that we are all sad because of all the army and the police officers, apart from people like General Coletta and General Okesho, who I also knew through Gorof. Only two army officers, rather three, have regarded me as worth visiting or discussing matters with. And those have been General Kale Kaihura, General Okecho, General Ivan Coletta, and the General Muntu. I used to have discussions and exchange of views with General Ere Tumuhimbise. And he was even sometime in Morocco. But since the NRM started, in my opinion, misgoverning this country, deliberately, it has been silent. And that is the problem that we have in Uganda. All my former journalists, one of them actually contributed to the book about Kanyeihamba the Incredible. And his name is there as one of the co-authors. Dedication. If I call him today, he doesn't answer. The only time I never talk to him is if I use somebody else's phone and he doesn't know I'm the one calling him. And when he finds I am on the other end, he gets very embarrassed. What kind of country are we building? A journalist is a good writer. You write a book, he's there, he never complained. Then he wrote a review of that book. And he told me his own newspaper he contributes to, Monitor, refused to publish his own review of Kanyeihamb's book. What kind of journalism is that? Really, we have a problem. NBS, Simon Tabanjara heads one section there. And he deliberately told me in front of me, this media, that lady who is very good.
Taise Mildred.
Eh?
Taise Mildred.
Yeah, Mildred. That we shall be hosting you once every month. Secondly, they used to. They would ask me questions and I will answer them to the best of my ability. And both of them have ever come here to my. But since then, let me tell you what has really surprised me. I deliberately drove to their media. It is in the premises which it used to be occupied by Wafamuno's TV. They reoccupied that, and I went there. Most likely those were occupied. I left them a copy of this book. When you read this book, you are provoked. You can't just keep silent. Both of them have been silent. I invited them to the launch of my volume, Constitutional Law, Public Law, and the Government. Media said she would come with the camera and she would discuss it afterwards. No, she has never even mentioned that Kanyeihamba wrote that book. Remember, it was launched with the now new speaker, Olanya, as a guest of the former Prime Minister, Mbaba's case, the renowned professor of law, Lumumba, was guest speaker. They came from Kenya. One came from Ghana. And other dignitaries like retired Minister Sechuleko, Justice Lamine, the former principal judge. Almost half of the judges of Uganda came to that launch, but immediately didn't come. Simon has never come out. Certainly I had invited Derek Sionga. He didn't come. No journalist has ever written about that book or that meeting at all. So who is at fault? Our so-called journalists and reporters, or Museveni, or Hakan, who even talked to me yesterday when I called him to pay my condolences about the attempted assassination of Katumba and the death of his lovely daughter and driver. Hakan Rugunda talks to me regularly. Kahindo Tafiri, I talk to him. I talk to all the others. But a journalist who you think would be very keen to know what is happening are silent. That is the kind of bill Uganda that we are under. And I am afraid, Norman, you, reporter journalist, you are the worst culprit of perpetuating fear. You are the ones, people like Simon Kabwa. He has told other people, but he thinks they don't tell me, that he was stopped by some owners of that TV from hosting me anymore. They have approached that lady whom I respect and I admire, and I told her, don't host Kanyeihamba. But they think we don't know. We do. And that makes it even worse. So our journalists who had the courage and the stamina to say publish and perish have been the first ones to be victims of fear.
And threats.
Fear which is generally imagined. I am very, very sad and angry because I have acted as a journalist myself. When I was in the UK, I co-founded and we taught journalism at the University of Wales, Cardiff. If anybody doubts me, you may ask Aldrich Waboko, one of our students there. He studied there. But Ugandans don't want to know.
I want to take you back to...
I am very sad about journalism in Uganda. There are other things I know about them, which I will not talk about. But it's very sad.
Okay, those are the words of Professor George Wilson Kanyeihamba this morning, and he was trying to make a few comments about the attempted assassination of General Katumba Wamala, where he indeed lost his driver and the daughter, Brenda. I want to ask you on behalf of our viewers, I am sure that you have heard about some theories that go as follows, that sometimes a revolution eats its own children. Do you think there could be some bit of a monster now in a revolution led by Mr. Museveni, where a revolution is now claiming some of its children?
There can be no doubt to say you are correct that Museveni's movement now turned into political fatigue is following its own children. When you look at the catalogue of very important people we have lost, they are mainly military, police, or politicians. And they all have been supporters of President Museveni. There is no doubt that the General Katumba has been a very loyal and upright leader, both in the police and in the army. He's a man respected. They nearly took him 2 days ago, or last night, the night before. Kawesa was a product of the movement, gone. The former MP for Arua, I forget his
Abiriga.
name. Yes. A fanatic supporter of President Museveni and the NRM party, gone. The list is endless. So you are right that this is a monster. The NRM brand of governance has become a monster that feeds on its children. At one time, when we came in 1986, every Ugandan was deemed to be a member of the movement. Since that day, the most formidable opponent of President Museveni, President Museveni alone, not the movement, have been his own children and the children of the movement, starting with Amama Mbabazi, General Tumukunde,
Besigye Muntu,
Besigye,
Shamuntu,
Biraro, the late, Kanya. Kanya, although he was cold and hot, depending on where his bread is coming from. Some of these are men and women of principle, the Muntus of this world, the Matende of this world, the Amanya Mushega.
Kazura.
All these were the children of the movement who have turned against its leadership the way it is led. People who were at that caliber, also very close friends of Museveni, the movement, did not stand for parliament. When it came to representation of UPDF, in which Museveni has got an upper hand, including General Tumuhimbise, including Ivan Koleta, Okecho, they are all out by his own hand. Because in that one, you can't say they were dropped by the army constituency, because I'm told he is the one who selects the candidates. When you come to the judiciary, see, even in Sada, there was a cartoon several years ago where the NRM won a case, and it was before the Supreme Court, then led by retired Chief Justice Odochi Asude Katule, Bat Katule, and they showed a unanimous decision is missing a claim against the government. And all the judges, including the Chief Justice, had been dressed, this cartoon is very a genius, were dressed in the effigy, the image of Museveni. So the Chief Justice was Museveni, the other judges, 8 of them were Museveni image. The cartoonist was telling you a message which some Ugandans didn't see, that all of them have been influenced by the president of the country. We are dealing in this book, it's called a monograph. A monograph means a book on one subject, topic alone. And the one topic here is presidential election challenge. If you historians remember, God has given me to remind you of your history. If you remember the amendment to remove term limits, and immediately the Act, Presidential Election Act, to operationalize that section, that article of the Constitution, were passed in the same year, 2005. People have forgotten that. Now, before they passed the removal of term limits, there has been a revolt in the movement. They all had refused to change the constitution. And how serious that refusal is evidenced by the people that they were sacked by Museveni from the cabinet. So those who refused included the late Kategaya, Elia, Amanya Mushega,
Mitya Matembe, Ruzindana,
Bidandisari, the most important personalities in that government, representing the shade of opinion of Ugandans, including Bidandisari, who was a very who is respected, he's still alive, by everybody. We watched him as the father of politics in Uganda, together with the Chibejinj and the people like that. They were all sacked. Why don't Ugandans learn? We are not children. Even then they could not read something. Then when Parliament refuses the NRM knows how to deal with people. Money. Money helps you to buy the necessities of life. But it is also the root of all evil. So those MPs who had refused to go along with the leader of the NRM were given 5 million each. These are factual. It's not a story or a rumor. The government, or rather shall I say the party, paid each of them 5 million to change the constitution, to remove term limits. We had debated the role of the Supreme Court in determining presidential elections. And the clause had come earlier, which we rejected. All the lawyers rejected it. Then it was reintroduced in the plenary session. The session rejected it. After bribing Parliament, the NRM party smuggled it in, not in the constitutional amendment, but it inserted it in the Presidential Election Act of 2005. Same year, the term limits were removed from the Constitution. And what does that say? It says, notwithstanding your findings that the election was rigged, that the constitutional provisions were violated, that the Electoral Law Commission Act, the Presidential Election Act was infringed and broken. Notwithstanding your findings here, did it make any difference to the result? I want Uganda really to think intelligently. So the Constitution is violated.
Electoral laws.
Electoral law is violated. Then we also find that the election was not free or fair because it was intimidated. The police, the army intimidated voters. There was vote stuffing and rigging. So, in our findings, 2006, we were unanimous, together with the Chief Justice, although she was with us, unanimous, that all those laws were broken. The Constitution was violated. Then the question came, did all those violations make any difference to the final result? Initially, as I will read in my, as I've read in my book, 5 of us, Odeo, Sekoko, Mulengo, Karukula, and Kanyeihamba said they made the depth of difference, and we should allow the petition. Then unseen forces started working on the minds of some of us. And on the day we delivered our findings, one had already changed, and the city would dismiss. As we were standing up to go to court and read that we are allowing this petition by 4-3, another of our colleagues chicken down. He said, for me, I am also changing. So eventually,
It remained 3
our findings were
to 4.
the petition was dismissed by 4 to 3 judges. The only one who remained consistent about our findings were 5. Justice Odell, Justice Sekuku, and Justice Kanyeihamba stood their ground and said we shall dismiss. Then the Chief Justice, Judicial, and the Justice Katweg also stood their ground that they would dismiss. So, you know, on the day we gave our findings, 2 of us had abandoned us, and they also joined the Chief Justice and the Justice Katweg, and also dismissed. That's how it was dismissed. But our findings are unanimous. 7 of us were in agreement. The final order to say, did he win or did he not win, is not part of the president.
Before we go into our break, I want to use the remaining 5 minutes as we head to the break.
Pardon?
We want to use the remaining 5 minutes as we head into a break to ask you, as a senior citizen, do you think, in your view, this country is out of hands, is out of Museveni's hands, as in he seems not to be in control because the murders? Do you think he has lost it in regards to the president, Mr. Museveni? You're correct.
So. You see, when I know him, a man can't change his. We are like leopards. Museveni cannot change his sports to become a vicious head or a killer machine. So my own view, I don't have evidence, is that he's being forced by other people who have no business being in the government, who have no business influencing the government, that he is tired. He no longer thinks properly about the interests of his people. But somebody somewhere, visible forces are guiding him to do the wrong thing. Because I have known President Museveni for a long time. He's the one man whom I feel will not kill me because of my knowledge of him. One of the times I was taken into safe custody to be given medicine to make me weak, and so I no longer write or think. On one of those occasions, Museveni sent his own doctor who said, Wilson Kanyeihamba is not sick. That is not the same man. That is a friend of Kaihura. And the other day he said he's going to consider releasing him. But Kaihura is still in jail. When the President Museveni said, they have never proved to me that he committed the offense, I'm going to release him. Where hasn't he done it?
He's on bail.
Somebody else is pulling the strings. My friend, my instinct tells me that Museveni is a prisoner of the system he's allowed to flourish in Uganda. And my instinct and the belief and the lack of fear in him even now is evidence that the strings are being pulled by forces which we don't know.
Okay, we have 4 minutes to go into a break. I want to ask this final question for this first segment. Whatever happens to those reports, commissions? There are so many murders, and then he institutes commissions. So what happens to the reports?
is what happened.
And you have also made some inquiries about the corruption in the judiciary.
Yes.
Yes. What happened
I
in those
was
reports?
part of that. Remember, really, I am very sad. That report, I was going to tell you what has happened to all those reports is what has happened to my report on corruption in the judiciary. I inquired into the Kenya judiciary. I was chairman of the team of eminent judges from the Commonwealth. And Kenya chose me select as Professor Lumumba said. I gave them a good report. They not only acted on our report, but half of this Court of Appeal either resigned or were forced to resign, including the Chief Justice Chunga. Not only that, but the Kenya government said we are going to implement the Kanyeihamba report. I led another team of investigators in the Kingdom of Switzerland, where there was an impasse between the king and his government. And we discovered that the Prime Minister and the Attorney General were the one causing trouble. They even believed in African magic to govern the country. So when I reported, the Attorney General said there is a man called Kanyeihamba. He should be arrested. When I gave him my confidence in the capital, they accompanied me to the airport on the orders of the king. I was accompanied to the airport by, among other people, I believe the king's brother, to be safely got out of the country. Swaziland, under the Prime Minister and the Attorney General, refused to implement the Kanyeihamba report. Then donor countries, including Britain, Germany, and America said, unless you implement the Kanyeihamba report, we are not going to give you any aid. We held on for 2 years, refusing to implement our recommendations. Then the country began the economy to collapse. Then he sacked the Prime Minister and the Attorney General. The donors returned to the country and it became prosperous. The new Attorney General, Prince David from Switzerland, made a trip here to thank me for what they did for me. On the launch of the book, you remember, the Kenyans have never reported the job I did for them. Lumumba told you that many of our recommendations are now incorporated in the new Kenya Constitution. Contrast that with what happened to my report in Uganda. Among the people I reported as Nicola, 3 were named by the Chief Justice. I have a letter here commissioning me to carry out inquiries into the judiciary. When I said I will be investigating my colleagues and so am I safe, he said make it strictly confidential so that nobody would never know who said you were against who. When I remember that, I cried. Then the Chief Justice, Katureli, sat on my report. But he leaked it to all the judges and the magistrates I had named to show that he was a good man.
And you were a bad man.
The devil who hated the judiciary. When David Kachionga, please, you are a journalist, ask him. He interviewed the Chief Justice. And he said, Kanyeihamba says you betrayed him because this report was supposed to be confidential and you publish it. And the country they say, my office leaks like a sieve, somebody in my office must have leaked it. That is not true. He did it himself. And I know.
Okay, we are coming back.
Let's be finish on this point. So when the Chief Justice himself admitted and stated to the country that they are corrupt judges, he named one of them, that this man is a corrupt judge of the High Court. He should be investigated and removed. I was encouraged. He had not given the report to the Judicial Service Commission. So I sent my report
To the commission.
intact to the Judicial Service Commission, including those that had been named by the Chief Justice himself. They interviewed me, not Yamukama, but members of his committee, of his commission in poison. And they were satisfied with my questions. Let me tell you, my friend, what happened in Uganda. And that will tell you what has happened to all the other reports. Then somebody, I don't know who it is, seemed to be the secretary of the Judicial Service Commission. He wrote me a letter saying Judge so-and-so was cleared. Judge so-and-so was warned. Magistrate so-and-so was promoted. In other words, once you are promoted, they no longer interested in what you did wrong. All of them, I had named 7 judges and the 4 magistrates. They were all, they are cleared, or pardoned, or whatever. That is what I'm trying to say. Some of those I named were later promoted to higher court officers. And then the impression, because each of them wrote Scotland as if he was the Judicial Service Commission, explaining that Kanyeihamba hated me, Kanyeihamba is wanting to impose British standards here, blah blah. Not a single one of them
Was ever punished.
the one named by the Chief Justice himself, and the Catholic will tell you he named him, was not terminated or suspended, but he was transferred somewhere where he is safe, nobody knows where he is. Still working as a
Judge of High Court.
You people.
Okay, we are going into a break for simply a minute or two, and we'll be back to begin with our third episode. Justice Kanyeihamba will take us through, and then we'll be back.
Alternative Dig Talk. Real issues, real talk.
You have got to get up pretty early to go do something. We are the Alternative Dig Talk. With our mobile studios, we are redefining TV presentation just as technology is setting the pace. We are blending our approach with fresh, perspectively designed breakfast show, The Mighty Drive, informative and entertainment show, exclusive and live interviews.
We President Museveni wadde juzi namulaba apima akawunga kilo 2 tasobola kalya nini bwaba alya kilo 5 we yanema okuliisa eggwanga ne bwe limundekera
njagala kwebaza the alternative digital etuwadde kano ka mighty drive era n'abatuwuliriza bonna abali ku mikutu njagala basaba mugende mu maaso n'okuwuliriza.
All given to you just a click away on your phone, tablet, laptop, and smart TVs. As we are streaming live on our social media platforms, on the road and on the go. We are the Alternative TikTok.
Hey Ugandans, I'm Lieutenant Colonel Dewa Kiki, the Deputy Defense Spokesperson and actually the Deputy Spokesperson for the Uganda People's Defense Forces. I was hosted on Alternative Digital. I encourage all Ugandans that this is the way to go. Always watch, participate, give your views and ask questions on Alternative Digital. Digital, the way to go.
Alternative TikTok. Real issues, real talk.
Good morning once again. I'm still with Professor Kanyeihamba. My name is Tumuhimbise with the Mighty Drive Show. We are on to our third episode of this monologue, challenging a presidential election, but his emphasis is on to Article 104 of the Uganda Constitution and the Presidential Elections Act of 2005. On our social media, we stream live on Facebook, and that is the Alternative Uganda. And also later on, minutes after the show is done, all these shows are on to our YouTube channel, the Alternative Uganda, as well, and also on Twitter, Alternative Yuga. We want to begin with, we were on page 14, and in particular, since 1995, there have been, that's where we should begin from.
Thank you, Norman. Since 1995, there have been 4 presidential petitions and 1 age limit petition. In all the 5 petitions, the courts have found ample evidence of violation of the Constitution, the rule of law, acts of parliament, and intimidation, which amply justify the nullification of those elections and the amendment on term limits. In each of the aforementioned petitions, Supreme Court judges either unanimously or by significant majorities found that there were sufficient evidence for the court for those elections and Age Limits Act and to order either new elections or nullify the amendment. However, in every petition, one judge found cause to decide to a majority in favor of the respondents, thereby ignoring their constitutional duty to render justice without favor or ill will towards anyone, and with the courage, fortitude, and
compile with the provision.
comply, rather to comply. That's
Yeah,
what,
to comply, yes.
To comply with the provisions of the Constitution of Uganda. The majority of the Supreme Court judges were to shy away from the clear and unambiguous words used in Article 104 of the Constitution. However, they appear to have found comfort in the impanned Section 59, subsection 6, paragraph A, which, as we emphasize in this monograph, is null and void and conflicts with subsections 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5 of
Section 59.
Section 59
The prescription.
and with Article 104 of the Constitution. That paragraph 6A of Section 59 continues to be an embarrassment to all and sundry, and should be deleted from the Constitution by the 11th Parliament on first sitting in May 2021 as a matter of great national public interest and utmost urgency. I am glad to say that I had a discussion with one leader of the party, NUPE, Honorable Charles, and he has decided to buy copies of this monograph, presidential election, challenging election, and give each of his members in the parliament and the members of the opposition, FDC, and the others, each a copy, and show them that I am challenging them, that they must formally move a motion in the parliament at the earliest opportunity and challenge the continued presence of paragraph A, subsection 6 of Section 59
The
of
Presidential Elections
of the
Act.
Presidential Election Act immediately, without going any further. No, don't wait until the election. Don't wait until presidential election in 5 years' time. Do it now. And let us see if really the NRM is honest and its members are honorable. Let's see whether anybody will oppose the deletion of paragraph A, subsection 6, section 59 from that law. If anyone opposes, if President Museveni opposes the deletion, then you know they are corrupt. Then you know that the government which we have today is based on corruption and influence everybody, including judges. Because That is what I emphasize here. But then I'm telling you, nobody is going to keep quiet. The Nupe members of Parliament are going to be mandated by their leader, Chakulani. But here is a book I have bought, a view of the judiciary in the eyes of Professor Kanyeihamba and other judges, including those who have differed with the movement. His former two colleagues, and even the late two colleagues of his who confessed they had been influenced by political consideration. Justice Kakuru of the Court of Appeal, the Chief Justice, the current one, Justice Zoro Winyi, who said that Uganda, we made a mistake in removing term limits from the constitution, something echoed by presidential candidate Major General Tumuhimbise. Then our visitors here who came here recently, Professor Lumumba, respected in the world as a great lawyer and human rights activist. Mono from Uganda, who came especially to launch our book, have said judges are wrong, Uganda judges. The Constitution says they should inquire into. Inquiry is different from hearing. Why do they continue saying they had and they get judgment? Where do they get those words from? The Constitution is clear. They shall inquire into and they give findings. The Kanyeihambas of this world, the judges in the petition, they inquired into and gave findings. So that is what is emphasized here. In the 2001...
11. 2011.
You want to ask something?
No. Is it this in that 2000?
In the 2001 presidential petition, there were 5 justices to cast their votes to allow the petition, and the 3 voted dismiss it. In 2006, by the way, that vote did not form a quorum.
Yeah, of 2001,
It
yes.
should have been second.
Yes.
So it is faulted on 2 grounds. That was not a quorum, and secondly, obviously, they were divided 3 by 2. In 2006, the court was also divided, 3 for allowing the petition and the 3 for dismissing it, with the Chief Justice again joining the 3 who want to dismiss, and they became 4, and the petition was dismissed by 4 to 3. In 2011 presidential election, there was no petition. In 2016, the circulating stories were that FDC's Chiza Besigye won the presidential election. Honorable Mama Mbabazi petitioned and lost. Mbabazi's lawyers claimed that their office had been broken into and the relevant papers had been stolen. Although Mbabazi lost, we have never known how each judge decided Mbabazi's petition, because their individual decisions and the findings, if any, were not published or made public in any other way. Lastly, on this point, in the age limit petition, again the court was split, with the 4 judges deciding to allow the petition and nullify the law that was removing age limit from the constitution, while 4 of their colleagues disagreed on the same panel and wished to dismiss the petition and therefore uphold the amendment. The Chief Justice, Bart Katurere, cast his vote to dismiss. All the Supreme Court judges who divided more or less evenly when allowing or dismissing the presidential petitions are or were learned judges who took the solemn judge's oath to do justice to all without fear or ill will, and to enforce and apply the Constitution and the laws of Uganda professionally. Ugandans, therefore, ask themselves that how come that each of the 5 petitions enumerated and described the findings which are either unanimous or supported by the overwhelming majority of the judges, they nevertheless slavishly based their final opinion solely on the null and void section 59 clause 6A of the Presidential Election Act. Ugandans ask themselves, and I also ask, how come they are applying the same law to the same facts under the same circumstances? How can learned judges be so different and be evenly divided on a simple matter of whether the violations of the Constitution and of the laws and the vote finding, the vote starting, they have discovered they do not make any difference to the result. By following an illegal and unconstitutional provision, paragraph A, the judges compounded the felony of an unconstitutional basis. They don't seem to see it. And I hope that in the 11th Parliament, with the opposition led by Nupe or Honorable Chakulani, this question will be asked by all Ugandans publicly and openly in the Parliament, and let the government answer it. Then we shall know, is Uganda an authoritarian regime governed by a regime, or are we returning to democracy? This monograph should assist you, the reader, and arm you with courage to challenge all the judges and the lawyers who participated in those petitions and ask them to answer the why in this conclusion and judge in particular why they avoided the terms used in the Constitution itself to inquire into and give findings. But we are only happy to resort and use and accept the terms herein and the judgment in their final orders. How did they come to avoid the words to inquire into and give findings? Surely all the judges must explain why a matter which had been discussed in the Constituent Assembly and rejected, and which the 1995 Constitution does not even refer to. This paragraph A cannot be found, referred to or alluded to in the 1995 Constitution. Where did anybody get it from? I am at a loss. It seems to me that none of these learned justices remembered the preamble to the Constitution of Uganda, why Ugandans outlawed dictatorship by means of terms, by the means of term and age limits. For good measure, we have reproduced that preamble in this monograph. In the conclusion, on this point, no one seemed to be to show correct curiosity as to why, if the Supreme Court judges are applying the same law to the same facts in each of these petitions, why should there be such diversions and radically different, dissimilar applications and interpretations of the same law? It is logical to conclude that many judges of the Supreme Court are either intimidated or biased when it comes to presidential election petitions. When in an interview which was edited and published by the Observer, I repeated accurately what the landlord Chief Justice Ben Obuchi read in an open court. I was criticized by some ruling party activists as having attacked the judiciary and betrayed its secrets. It sometimes appears that many Ugandans have not only short memories, but choose to wear blinkers when it comes to their welfare and the governance and the truth of what occurs. there can be no shadow of doubt that what I said in that interview was an accurate statement that the land Chief Justice had read in open court, and what was widely publicized in the media. Every Ugandan lawyer ought to know the natural meaning of inquiry, findings, opinion, and orders. Since the court's findings in 2006, presidential petition, since the findings of the court in 2006, presidential petitions, no, sorry, let me repeat it now. Since the court's findings in the 2006 presidential petition, which act as a binding precedent, many constitutional lawyers, was their name, have wondered where the words try, hearing, judgment were invented from to be in common use in Uganda presidential petitions filed under Article 104 of the Constitution. As already observed, I inquired into and gave my findings within the mandatory terms of the Uganda Constitution. On the other hand, my colleagues, having wrongly chosen the unconstitutional terms of
here and judgment
and the judgment, were incapable, were incapacitated by their own folly, which made it impossible to give their findings, they wrongly called judgments, in the prescribed time. My findings and reasons, which were published and circulated within the terms and the conditions prescribed in the Constitution for everyone to read or hear,
we are the shortest.
Similarly, they consisted of my findings and the judgment, which only
confirm suspect,
which only suspect the accused or their
witnesses
and the judgments and the sentences normally applied to. The Constitution of Uganda is a binding contract between the people of Uganda and their successful governments. It was made by the people after some
6 years of protracted
negotiations through the country under the auspices of the Constitutional Commission and the Constituent Assembly. The Supreme Court is the last sanctuary for all the people in Uganda who are challenging any violations of the Constitution or breach of any other law. Sadly, since 2006, subsequent structures of petitions and the findings of the judges of the Supreme Court have not followed
Precedent.
that precedent in common law countries, of which Uganda is one, when court ignores a binding precedent or law, that court decision is known as a decision per incuriam or wrong decision. I can state here that having described the 2006 as the only president, the first president in interpreting and applying the law relating to presidential elections, and I emphasize the 2001 panel was not in quorum. Then all the decisions of the Supreme Court since then, decisions are decisions per incuriam. They are wrong decisions. They are wrong decisions because they are at variance. They differ from the total findings of the court. In addition, every court since then, that is Supreme Court, has made extensive recommendations to modify and ensure that justice is administered and recognized in the interpretation of the Constitution, and in particular, the application and interpretation of Article 104. To show you that the law no longer works in Uganda. Since that time, NRM has been in power continuously. It has never enacted any one law to comply with Supreme Court's judgment recommendation. That is our proof.
Parliamentary and local government elections.
Parliamentary and local government elections fare worse in Uganda for lack of effective and transparent methods of conduct and supervision. On the other hand, judges have shown much more inclination to scrutinize and make sound judgments on non-constitutional cases brought before them. Uganda law reports, both published and unpublished, are written with the numerous cases of successes and failures.
With judicial challenges.
Of sorry.
Mine is page 21.
I think
Yeah, should
so
judicial challenges.
numerous cases of successes and failures, or where did I go?
Reports, let me give you this. Let me give you this. Scrutinize and make. What is this? Like, where there is lines.
More than challenges the failures of judicial challenges that will indicate the courage and professionalism of the land judges. Sadly, in the by-elections, candidates who are convicted of electoral offences are permitted to participate again and often win using more or less the same illegal methods, undermining the work of the judiciary and
a mockery.
The judiciary becomes a mockery.
The Uganda Constitution.
The Uganda Constitution, laws and justice. Judges of the Supreme Court inquire into the presidential petition and give their findings not collectively but individually. Each judge's findings must be known publicly, as it was in the petition of 2006, and then each judge should declare his or her final order again individually. This is what was done in 2001, 2016, and in the 2018
legitimate petition.
We should know what each judge decided. Regrettably, the majority of our Supreme Court judges who inquired into the 2001, 2006, 2016, and the 2021 elections swallowed the NRM personal
poisoned carrot.
Poisoned carrot of section 59. Subsection 6, paragraph A of the Presidential Elections Act, and
failed to order fresh elections.
And failed to order fresh elections, thereby ignoring their duty and as defendants and protectors of our rights and freedoms. It is clear now that under section 59, subsection 6, paragraph A, majority of judges in all petitions have up to date hidden behind the curtain of article,
section
of section 59, 6 A,
presidential,
described
59 of the Presidential Elections Act. Is it designed to intimidate judges or to comfort them when they prefer one candidate against others? In the 2006 petition, several judges were.
In the 2006 petition, several judges were challenged to explain why
they did not nullify.
Dismissed the petition when the court as a whole had unanimously found the laws, rules, and the principles of fair and free election had been violated and for voters intimidated and the rigging has taken place. In the conversation with them
That followed.
that followed, they were asked what would have happened,
Idi
what
Amin.
would have been their decision if Idi Amin had been the candidate, declared the winner, and Museveni the loser, who petitioned. The response was unanimous. There would have been no single judge dismissing, rather dissenting in
That petition.
The petition would be allowed, and the election would have been nullified, and the fresh election would be declared because Idi Amin was a brutal
Fascist.
and the Museveni
He's relatively a good man.
relatively a good man. There lies the secret of keeping pan the paragraph B of Clause 6, Section 59 of the Presidential Elections Act. Section 59, that section of the Presidential Elections Act is enigma and contradicts Article 104 and ought to be
Deleted.
deleted from the laws of Uganda. At that time,
Stinging tail.
its stinging tail first appears in the court. It ought to have been removed, but it wasn't. And now we have an opportunity in the 11th Parliament to do the necessary. At the end of our inquiry, in Presidential Petition 2006, we had several meetings discussing our findings. Initially, 5 out of 7 agreed that the petition should be allowed because the election was not free or fair.
By the date of delivery. Delivery of our findings.
Much later,
Over the 5.
of the 5 had changed their minds and decided to dismiss the petition instead of
At the time, they gave reasons which were not
they gave
acceptable
reasons which were not accepted
by most of us.
by the rest of us. Judges are human and adopt opinions which are not necessarily based on law, even though their training and the judicial oath guide them to do the right thing without
Fear
fear, ill will,
or favor of anyone.
to anyone.
If a presidential candidate
If a presidential candidate is the incumbent president, his cadres and supporters intimidate or torture the other candidates or their voters, and the national security forces flag that no other candidate is fit to be president, and that even if those other candidates were elected, the forces would continue supporting the incumbent,
even if he lost.
If he or she lost the election. That kind of intimidation
Would discourage.
kind of environment
Would discourage.
or frighten away voters to stay
Away
away
and fear to
and
vote.
fear to vote for anyone
Yes.
other than the incumbent, thereby allowing the incumbent to be elected by a huge majority. Not because he was popular, he or she was popular, but because of the environment I have described. Then someone
An intimidated or biased judge will quickly jump onto section
Yes.
9.
then an intimidated candidate might not petition, but that who has the courage to petition would obviously lose because of the provision of
15.
paragraph A, subsection 6
6.
of section 50.
The Alternative Dig Talk. Real issues, real talk.
Curiosity as to why, if the Supreme Court judges applying the same law to the same facts in each of the petitions, why should there be such vast differences and opinions on identical facts applying the same law by judges who speak and understand the same language?
Yes, Justice, I'm afraid our time is, we have like 2 minutes to finish our third episode, if and then so that we can pledge to our viewers that the next week we shall come for our 4th episode.
Okay.
Yes, maybe to say and also add here, we have Kaka Medi, the professor is gifted, and Someone here says there's Anita Scovia who sends condolences to General Katumba. And yes, most of the viewers are thanking you for the great work. We could have conclusive remarks for this specific episode, and then we promise our viewers to come back. We have 5 minutes, sir. Yes, sir, about this particular one, and then we shall come back next week for the other 4th episode. Especially where you say the Banyachitara of Western Uganda have a saying that after dancing for a reasonable period of time, a good dancer quickly. What did you mean? Can I give you this? Should I give you this? This here. Have you seen the Minister?
Let me say this. In the conclusion, I want to emphasize that many Ugandans believe and pray that Museveni as Museveni assumes office in 2021, this will be his last term as President of the Republic of Uganda. At the end of another 5 years, he will be in his 80s. Uganda, as an independent state, has been in existence for nearly 60 years, out of which Museveni has been president or ruled the country for nearly 40 years. The Nyachitara of Western Uganda have been saying that after dancing for a reasonable period of time, a good dancer quickly and willingly gives way to the young and the fresh dancers who continue to entertain the people with same or similar dancing. I think we shall stop there.
Okay, our viewers, thanks for watching. We shall have to break until next week for our other episode. Thank you all for viewing the Alternative Digital.
Hello, somebody.
The Alternative Dig Talk. Real issues, real talk.
Hey Ugandans, I'm Lieutenant Colonel Dewa Kiki, the Deputy Defense Spokesperson and actually the Deputy Spokesperson for the Uganda People's Defense Forces. I was hosted on Alternative Dig Talk. I encourage all Ugandans that this is the way to go. Always watch, participate, give your views and ask questions on Alternative Dig Talk. Dig Talk, the way to go.